House of Guinness doesn't conclude its first season, it simply cuts to black on the sound of a gunshot, leaving us in suspense. A whirlwind of politics, a family's destiny, a forbidden romance, and the inevitable bullet. It all came to a sudden end as Arthur Guinness spoke. It's as if the gunshot is a metaphor, a shot fired at his family, at the bitter feud between Ireland and England, or at the sins buried in their own hearts. More than anything, it's a symbol of a powerful Anglo-Irish family trapped by history and fortune, and of an heir completely torn apart by his faith, his class, his passions, and his duty. But was the assassination real? I'm Judy, and today we dive behind the drama to uncover the true story of Arthur Guinness. You may have never tasted Guinness Stout, but you've surely heard of the Guinness World Records. They come from the same family, a family that turned beer into an empire, and fortune into a kind of chain. Its roots run deep into 19th century Ireland, an island ruled by Britain and torn apart by faith and by nation. As Protestant believers and loyal Unionists, the Guinness family stood right at the eye of the storm of history. In the series, Arthur is portrayed as a man deeply repressed by the moral codes of the Victorian age. Pushed by his father onto the pedestal of inheritance, he becomes the reluctant heir, betrayed by his forbidden lover, and then saved by that same lover's desperate sacrifice.
We do not forgive.
That cold farewell sounded less like pride and more like a painful act of self-exile. He said,
"You must walk away from anyone with this cursed name. Weakness and blackness will come from any connection."
He lost his lover, and with him, he lost himself. In public, he was the powerful head of the family, a champion of charity and politics admired by all. But in the shadows, he lived between sin and redemption. Because in Dublin at that time, homosexuality was not only a disgrace, it was a crime that could destroy a man completely. Worse still, he was forced to end the affair between his wife, Lady Ardilaun, and the factory foreman, Rafferty, a liaison that began as lust, but had become something dangerously real. To Lady Ardilaun, his decision was cruel, a ruthless defense of family honor. Yet in Arthur's conflicted gaze, we glimpse something else, a strange, belated understanding, perhaps even the faint spark of love. Maybe, for the first time, he realized he could love a woman too.
You don't have to love me because I love you.
A woman like his wife, so like himself, born into privilege, proud, unable to abandon comfort or wealth, and yet, unknowingly, falling into a love that could never end well. The central conflict of the first season stems from a will, a document left by their father, Benjamin Guinness, that reads like a curse. It decrees that the two brothers must jointly manage the brewery, and that if either one withdraws unilaterally,
then that brother shall forfeit everything.
That single clause shatters Arthur's plan for escape. He had made a private agreement with his brother Edward.
So when the brewery comes to me,
But you sell it to me.
40%,
35.
deal.
To sell his shares, leave Dublin behind, and take his lover to London to live a free life. And so, House of Guinness is not truly a story about power or succession, but about two destinies bound together against their will. One brother, a pleasure-seeking heir desperate to flee his inheritance. The other, a pragmatic empire builder determined to lift the family from the ranks of wealthy merchants to genuine nobility. Wealth and power, are they shining armor, or the heaviest chains of all? The real Arthur Edward Guinness was indeed the firstborn heir, but there was no cursed will, no conflict with his brother. In 1876, for £600,000, he sold his shares to his brother, Edward Cecil Guinness. He walked away from the business, moved to London, and became Lord Ardilaun. He restored churches, he funded the arts, he gifted Dublin its greatest parks, including St. Stephen's Green and St. Anne's Park, which in 2019 was named one of the 5 most beautiful urban parks in the world. He became Dublin's most generous, and its loneliest, nobleman. No children, no heir. His marriage to Olivia White, which lasted half a century, is widely considered a classic Mariage Blanc, a white marriage. For a gay aristocrat of that era, it was an elegant disguise. And so the show's storyline for him is not baseless speculation. It is a plausible, emotional truth, born from the perfect, silent void in his history. He was a man who could not be himself in his own home. That bullet wasn't just for Arthur. It represented the long and bitter feud between Ireland and England. In the show, the gunman is a Fenian, a member of an Irish nationalist group sworn to overthrow British rule through violence. And in history, the real Arthur also faced a death threat from nationalists. The year was 1872. A staunch unionist, Arthur hosted an exhibition in Dublin. For simply correcting an error in a newspaper, he received an anonymous letter. "We will send a man to put a bullet in you. Be warned." But this was more political intimidation than a true assassination plot. He didn't call the police. He didn't seek revenge. In reality, he chose silence and pride. The series takes this threat on paper and turns it into a speeding bullet, transforming the undercurrents of history into a raging storm of drama. The attacks on Arthur came not just from gunmen on the streets, but from Dublin's greatest writers. His fortune could not buy everyone's respect. When Ireland's greatest poet, W.B. Yeats, fought to build a gallery for the people, Arthur's business instincts made him hesitate. He demanded evidence, demanded the poor first prove they were worthy of art. Yeats was enraged. He took up his pen, wrote his famous poem, To a Wealthy Man. That pen, just like the Fenians' gun, was aimed straight at the heart of the Guinness family's honor. So, how will Season 2 unfold from the echo of that gunshot? History tells us the bullet will not find Arthur, but it will strike his future. Where will his life go from here? Will he chase the budding love for his wife, only to find it's a love he can never have? Will he plot a new escape, desperate to break the chains of his family at any cost? Or, facing his brother's iron will and ambition, will his proud nature lead him to exit the stage for good, becoming a lonely ghost of the old aristocracy in an era of change? But no matter which path Arthur chooses, the script of history has already been written. The scepter of the Guinness Empire is destined for his brother's hands. So, how did this man, Edward Cecil Guinness, who took this burden from his brother, forge the Guinness Brewery into a global titan, becoming the richest man in Ireland and ultimately an Earl of the realm? Next time, we unveil the legend of the true architect of the Guinness dynasty, Edward, the Earl of Ivy.